Hey, welcome to Main Pod Girl, a podcast made by Popheads for Popheads. Every episode we'll be diving into all kinds of pop culture topics with some of our favorite artists and music commentators. I'm your host, AJ Marks. And today's special guests have worked with every pop diva under the sun. I'm talking Mariah Carey, Britney Spears, Madonna, Rihanna, Beyoncé, Avril Lavigne, and the list could go on forever. But today, they're here as the songwriters and composers for the new movie musical Juliet and Romeo, which stars Rebel Wilson, Jason Isaacs, friend of the pod Taylor Parks, and more. And it'll be out in theaters everywhere by the time you're listening to this episode. I'm thrilled to welcome back Evan Bogart and introduce to the pod Justin Gray.
First of all, I want to say that this was the most fun I've ever had prepping for a podcast. Seriously. It's not every day that I get to watch a movie and feel productive. Right off the bat, I want to dive into the ambition of making a pop musical. It's in a historical context, but it features modern pop songs. Yeah. So was there a conversation about how modern to make these songs, or was the goal from the jump to have that juxtaposition?
From the jump. The goal from the jump was, let's do original modern pop music set to 1300s Italy. Yeah, it was a conscious decision from the beginning, which was, let's go and let's retell the story that people think they know. My brother, is an expert in studying Shakespeare and his writing, and he wanted to delve into some of the characters that Shakespeare honestly didn't really even delve into, and so he wanted to tell more of their stories. And then instead of the way that Shakespeare would tell, would use soliloquies and iambic pentameter to kind of convey the inner dialogue and innermost thoughts and emotions from his characters, we decided to do that in today's poetry, which is pop music. And so that was a very conscious decision from day one, before we even wrote one word, or before even my brother wrote one word.
I was going to say, an important part of musicals to me is that the songs don't interrupt the flow of the story, but they progress the story forward and convey emotions in a more effective way than just dialogue. So I think getting into specifics here, the use of What If I Loved You is an interesting way to paint the backdrop of the hookup culture over at the Montagues and Romeo's discomfort with that, and as a way to show us that he's evolving from that. But then without the context of the film, it just sounds like a fun pop song. So I think that was a clever way of approaching the pop element and the musical element at the same time. But instead of meshing them up and meeting them in the middle, it killed two birds with one stone. So
yeah, thank you. I think first, we know, it's common knowledge. Everybody's always asking, well, I wonder what early 1300s Italy hookup culture was like. And it was something that we really wanted to address really early on.
It's a social statement.
It's obviously, we see a lot on TikTok. They're always talking about it. So we really wanted to address that. No, the other thing was, my brother likes to say that, there's two different kinds of musicals. There's one where the people in the musicals conscious that they're in a musical, right? They're like, I'm in a musical and we're singing to each other and blah, blah, blah. And then there's the other ones where it's it breaks into song, and yet the song, it pushes the narrative forward. It's not that people aren't necessarily self-aware, we're in a musical. And so we wanted to be more of that. And although obviously people are conscious that they're in the song, especially in What If I Loved You, where they're, performing together, dancing together, it's not kind of we're going to go sing a song now together. It just kind of happens, and it's their expression of how they're feeling at that moment. It's also one of the few ensemble songs where people are ensembling together, as opposed to ensembling apart, in The Mask I Wear, where it's, you have all of these different characters singing from their point of view of what that song means to them, but separately yet together as one cohesive song, right? In this case, it's they're singing it, collaborating together, but they're also in the same scene together, which is also really fun to do.
Yeah, that actually happens with The Mask I Wear. That kind of happens a couple different times. You have the first song too, where it's Juliet and Romeo are both singing them at different times kind of like as an echo and kind of like unaware that they're kind of singing the same song. I thought that was cool as well.
That was one of the first sort of challenging moments when we were putting this together was, these songs, when they're written, in order to maintain the popness of them, right? Like the cohesive pop song structure, they're written as full entire songs, right? Intros, verse, chorus, pre-chorus, bridge, whatever. And then when given and handed over and sort of turned into context of the film, all of a sudden it's like, oh, Romeo well, actually originally it was Juliet sings and then Romeo sings and then, and Evan could talk more about this, but then Tim wanted to change it up. So that song in particular, Stranger, the first song, starts, then there's a whole sequence of like 7 or 8 minutes. And then to your point, now comes Juliet at the end singing separately, but in a way at the same time, on the same song. So the song is this massive intro piece is bookended by these two pieces of this same pop song. And I think that, Tim did a great job. And and for us, we had to sort of, support it, which was, how do you make this feel like one cohesive long thing without feeling like you're now in and out of the song? And that song in particular, Stranger. But, Evan, if you want to talk a little bit about how that song got kind of reconfigured after shooting, right?
Yeah, I mean, you go into this with, we've written a full song that we feel pushes the narrative forward in order to shoot the movie, right? And as we're working together with the director, with the choreographers, with the stunt people, with the set designer, it becomes a collaborative living organism at that point, right? And so you're on set kind of, shooting different parts, trying to figure out which parts are going to tell the best narrative once you get to the editing, right? And so it's interesting. It's like if you're doing a musical live, that's one thing. But if you're shooting a film where, it's like you have all these other considerations and all these other ways, we have to set up the whole movie in like the first 10 minutes of the movie, right? And so it's like, okay, so much has to happen in this, right? There's the whole, the Friars preamble, where you see obviously Juliet and Romeo are, already dead, and it's kind of like we're going back, you could start to hear the score come in, and the score is playing elements of Streets on Fire, transitions into Stranger, and then the song starts, and it's like you're setting up that Romeo's coming up into this area. What's he doing here? Oh, it's like, oh, okay, he's going into this area. He's got this book, and what's the book? And he's coming up there. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a sword fight. And it's like, oh, the Capulets and the Montagues. Yeah, I know this story. They hate each other. Right. Okay. Yeah. So they have to like kind of set all that up. So you're like, start a song, stop the song, transition the song into score. That score is all rooted in the music and melody of Stranger. So it's like, we're never leaving Stranger, really, right? You're just figuring out ways to deliberately, the song turns into score and continues in a way rhythmically, marching along, horn lines, anthemic parts, string lines, and then all of a sudden, Juliet shows up, and it's like we're in the farmer's market or whatever, right? And by the way, they built all of this inside castle walls. So like, there's this castle like city. Out, is that Castel Arquato, right?
Yeah, Castel
This was filmed in Italy, right?
Castel Arquato, yeah.
It was filmed at 1,000-year-old churches and 1,000-year-old castles. Yeah, it was all. There was no sets.
We drive up to this like city on a hill that's literally people living in castle walls still up on a giant hill. So you're driving through these stone archways up these cobblestone streets all the way up to the top where there's like this courtyard, right? At the top of the whole thing. And you have Dante Ferretti, who's like this Oscar award-winning set designer, Italian, who's like come in there and he's transformed this courtyard in the middle of this 1,000-year-old castle city that people still live in. Like there's laundromats and butchers and like there's like people live there in this castle city. And you get up there and he's now transformed this entire courtyard into basically like Game of Thrones the musical. Like you all of a sudden you show up and you're like, oh, I'm in another era. Like the entire moat and the courtyard is like all everything's set designed. You're literally walking through a Renaissance fair, basically, and there's hundreds and hundreds of extras. It's like insane.
And Evan is really method, so he's method in the way he does it. So he was like rolling up to set on his horse. He was really into it, right?
It wasn't actually a real horse. It was like coconuts, like in Monty Python. So when Romeo is shooting that scene, all of that, none of that's like CG or anything. Like that is literally like that has been built. That entire universe has been built, and so they're following him up in the Da Vinci elevator, they call it, or whatever, like the Da Vinci lift, right? Which I guess was the Da Vinci design back then, the actual like first elevator. And so he gets up there, and then he's walking through, and it's like you see all these things. And sword fights are happening, and horn players are playing, and circus people are performing for the prince, and like all these things are happening, right? And then Juliet shows up in the farmer's market, and then we have to figure out how to okay, well, you can't have all this anthemic, rhythmic, drum laden music happening when Juliet shows up, because now it's like our heroine is there, right? So it's like, we then have to figure out how to keep the song going in score, now soften it, bring in pizzicatos, bring in different instrumentation that feels playful. She's like playfully going through there. Romeo's now, she's caught Romeo's eye. And then they have their interaction. Again, the song's still happening. Like, you may or may not notice it. This exact song, Stranger, is still happening, but it's score, and it's just bringing you forward as the story's unfolding, and the setup of Romeo and Juliet. Are they going to be in love? They are, but like how they meet and everything. And then all of a sudden she disappears to go back to her mom, the amazing Rebel Wilson. And, she turns around to face the crowd, and she belts the bridge of the song. Like, wait, I forgot. We're in a song. Like, and it kind of effortlessly and seamlessly just happens, where you're kind of like, oh, yeah,
I would say effortlessly and seamlessly, a lot of effort.
No. In the film, in what we did, in the film, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, as the film progresses, it's like you're just in it. You don't realize you're still in a song at this point until she starts singing again, and then they're duetting the chorus. It's wild. It's kind of wild how it all worked out.
And one of the cool sort of little motifs that we introduced in that section that Evan's talking about is that whenever there is a interaction between specifically Juliet and Romeo, that is always driven by a harp. So later on in the film, we use that same sort of motif when they're in the church together, or when they're wherever they are, and when they're in this romantic place, it's always driven by harp music. That's something that does also recur, and that's the first time that we're kind of seeing that in that scene in the bazaar or the market. So yeah, and that was, I think that whole opening sequence is like 12 minutes long or something. So and that was a lot of work to get it all to not be boring, to match the picture, and to make sure that we can land back in the essence of the song at the end. So. And that happens several times actually in the movie. There's several songs that are broken up in that way, and sort of interspersed with score and song. And I think for us, being able to not only write and produce the songs, the actual pop songs, but then also to work on the score and to create and produce and compose the score, I think was part of what I think makes this work. In other words, if we didn't have to hand off our pop songs to now a composer who had to figure out how to sort of stitch it all together, we were able to do that all from the beginning all the way to the end of the film. So that was a big task, but Tim entrusted us to do it, and I think that it worked out well.
So was that opening scene the trickiest scene to write a song for, or were there other moments where you were thinking, I feel like a song should go here, but what's the vibe that we want to hit here? What's the thing that we want to bring out that's not like, what's the subtext we want to bring out that's already not?
Well, let me set this up, and then I think Evan does a great job of knocking this down, which is that it wasn't like this was, okay, everybody, we're going to write a musical. This has been years in the making. In fact, I think the last two songs, written right at the end, which is The Mask I Wear, and another song called I Should Write This Down. Those were kind of the last pieces of the puzzle. But, Evan, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the evolution of the songs relating to the movie.
The songs themselves they were written to, I don't know if you're familiar with writing like songs for sync to brief, right? In some regards, like some, you hear from like a TV or film studio or ad company that's looking for like a specific kind of song, and they send like a brief along. Well, in this case, while Tim was writing the script, we were then looking at the scenes where we would identify, okay, this scene would be great to have a song, and this is this theme of that scene, this is the emotion from that scene, this is the concept we want to get, and the narrative and the story that we want to get across in that scene. So we would then go and we put together writing rooms, with different songwriters that we felt like would be additive in different ways, and we would approach them and say, okay, this grouping of songwriters with us would then write this song for this scene. So we kind of treated it like we knew how to write for like briefs, right? Like we kind of treated, we were giving ourselves the briefs. And then as we would write the song, Tim would then hear the song and then he would rewrite the scene based on the song. Like the song would evolve the writing, and then he would jump off of that and then evolve that scene and then tighten up that scene based on what we came up with in the song, and then it would inspire what the next scene is. So it was a very collaborative effort between the script writing, the screenwriting part of it, and the songwriting part of it, and they kind of played off each other. But it wasn't done in like a sense of like, okay, scene stops, now song starts. It was kind of like, okay, this is generally where I'd like to write for this scene. Let's talk about what a song might look like if this scene had a song. Then we would take that, the emotional, the story, the narrative, everything that we wanted to convey, go take that away, go write that, come back, and then we would end up inevitably rewriting and tweaking the scene itself to then fit the song that we wrote.
I love the relationship those two have then, the script and the music.
Yeah, it was cool. It's kind of unique to the musical process. It's not usually typically when someone's writing the musical book. That's not typically how it's done. And I kind of liked it. I liked that it was a more collaborative process like that.
Yeah. I mean, because you have usually it's either like the story and the music's flexible around that, or you have the music is the music, like Mamma Mia, and the story's flexible.
Yeah, we've written the music, like they've written the whole music, right? Like usually in the musical, you would go out and write all the music, and then you'd bring someone in to write the book around the music.
Yeah.
Right. In this case, it was like the book, the script, in this case, the book, whatever, would inspire the start of the song. The song would then re-inspire the finishing of the scene, and then inspire where to go from there, And so,
and not only that, I think it's important to say too that the songs, although they were complete, the songs evolved quite a bit. Right before shooting, during shooting, after shooting.
We'd have to rearrange songs. Obviously, sometimes rewrite them depending on how we shot them. In shooting them, we'd realize, oh, actually, we want this person to sing this part, and then if they're singing this part, we have to change these lyrics to give it a different perspective. I mean, that collaborative process went, literally all the way up until like a few months ago when we were in the editing room, trying to tweak things for editing. It was important to everyone involved that at the end of the day, we had standalone bangers that if you just played the soundtrack and you heard the songs in full, you'd be like, these songs are dope, right? These songs are hot.
The Mask I Wear gets stuck in my head all the time.
Outside of the film, we wanted the songs to be able to stand alone. That was a decision we made from day one before we wrote one thing.
Yeah, it was always about making sure that there was hit song aesthetic to it. And you talk about The Mask I Wear, that was actually probably the most challenging song to work on. We did, I don't know, Evan, would you say probably 60 or 70 versions of that song during the making of this recording. And part of the reason was the version that you see in the film is Tim's final vision, but we had recorded every single one of those women individually and separately across the entire song to allow him to have ultimate flexibility on who would sing ultimately what when in order to help tell a story. So, we would get a cut of the film and it would be Rebel singing the first verse and Clara or Juliet singing the end of the song. And then we would have to put that together. And then it would be, oh no, Rebel's part's going to come in later. And then, so we had to also be.
In addition to that, we actually shot. So we have a full version of the entire song from every single singer on that song, almost every singer on that song, shot entire scenes of them performing it solo. right? So that when we went into editing, Tim had flexibility, like Justin said, to then create the basically like a music video out of them performing this song, but in a way where he's telling the story, because each of them sing the same song, but they're singing it from a different perspective from their character, right? It means something different to each of them. And it's, all, in the grand scheme of things, it means this kind of means the same thing, but very specific to their story and their obstacles that they're going through and their conflict, right? And so he wanted to be able to tell it in a way that evolved the song so that it felt most powerful. But again, to Justin's point, we recorded everyone individually, leads, harmonies, and then filmed each of them singing, performing the song solo. It's kind of be fun. We should one day put out like the Mask I Wear EP, where I
think it'd be a double album, man. There was a lot of versions of that song, and
no, but each of them having their solo version.
Yeah, totally. There's a scene where there's a Grammy winner Lettucey. I mean, like the caliber of women on this song is amazing.
Yeah, like the Lettucey Martina Quinn scene.
Leah Quinn, obviously Clara Rebel, Taylor,
friend of the pod, love her.
Yeah, I mean, there's even version of the song with characters that didn't even make the cut. We have full versions of the songs.
Oh wow!
But what I was going to say was, if there's 3 people in a scene and the third person is in the background fuzzy, we wanted to make sure that there was a 3-part harmony. We wanted to make sure that nobody was ever pulled out of the moment, acknowledging it's a musical. Is that do you understand what I mean? Like if there's 3 people singing, there's 3-part harmony. And so that one was very, very meticulously crafted. And that probably we spent the most time on. And that was the last or the second last song that we actually wrote for the film.
Yeah, those last 2, I want to dive into them. And I'm glad that you brought up the music video thing, Evan, because that's definitely like how you're describing it is exactly how you would like storyboard a music video. Or like you have like a take where they're singing it in a bathtub, and a take where they're singing it in a car, and a take where they're singing whatever. And then you just kind of go back and forth as you see fit for the vision. So that's exactly what it is, which I love that. The other song that you said was tacked on kind of towards the end. I should write this down. That's one of my favorite moments in the movie. If not my favorite moment in the movie, I notice it leans a lot more into the musical theater style.
It's like the one musical piece.
Yes.
In there. It was for us, we were always like, how do we write a song? First of all, Dan Fogler is like a comedic genius, and he's so fun and funny and quirky. And so we really wanted to honor his personality, as this was like his big moment. But then throwing in the wrench of like, also you have to include Sir Derek Jacobi, who's like, Shakespearean god, Gladiator, a million other movies, right? Like, and you have to get him to basically also sing / rap kind of in that song, like speak along kind of thing. And it's not really what he does, right? He's like a stage actor. Well, Dan has sang before and performed before. In this case, we had to figure out how to write a collaboration between them. And then also we were like, yeah, but this is our opportunity to kind of create like our own, like, this is the master of the house moment in the thing. But like, we were doing it from Dan Fogler's perspective, is like, we wanted it to be also kind of Mel Brooks. It was like, if it was like the Inquisition meets Master of the House, like how would we do like a more tongue in cheek version of it kind of thing. And then it's also that whole scene of like, really, this is like how they're setting up the whole, how they're going to, pull the switcheroo, and this is like the whole life or death setup for the ending, right? And so we had to kind of honor that narrative at the same time. So it was like, how do we do something funny, tongue-in-cheek, more musical leaning? This could be the standout musical number and also push the storyline forward at the same time. It was, but lots of fun to do. And the original demo, which we should drop at some point, is me singing it.
Well, I wanted to say that because, so, as songwriters, how often does this happen, right? You write a song, you pitch a song, the song gets cut, the artist does their version of the song, and you are kind of like, wah, wah, right? Like it doesn't cut the mustard of what the demo was able to project. And Evan is a very, very emotive singer. And so, and also, by the way, Evan's range is insane. Like he can sing like super low, but also super high. And so when we started to work on the song, I was like, oh, we're going to have to change the key. And Dan Fogler came in and was so unbelievably prepared.
He nailed it. He knew the rap. He was like, he killed the rap in like one take. So
he actually elevated the demo, and Evan's demo is really good. Evan's demo is funny and quirky and really projects what the song is about. And he totally captured.
I don't know if he elevated the demo. I mean, mine was.
Sorry, buddy. He did. He elevated it. But on top of what I was going to say, what was really fun about that song was that I think probably the only song in the movie where the scene was written around the song, as opposed to, where it's like, hey, okay, this is the scene, we're going to have all of these women and they're going to be singing separately, but to each other and about the same thing, but it all affects them in a way. This was the first song, and I think the only song, Evan, maybe you can correct me, where we wrote the song, we sent it, Tim then took that song, and that really dictated how this whole scene was built around it. There's like, even like for us, when we started writing the song, we said, wouldn't it be funny if as he's going along, he's sort of getting high off of his own supply, and at the end he gets so drunk that he actually can't finish the song. He goes, I should write this, and kind of passes out. And so for us, being in Italy, watching the choreographers, the Coopermans, take the song, build the scene around the song, and then to actually be on set was actually a total trip for me. It was a very, very exciting moment, because you're going like, wait a minute, like we say the word viperarum and he goes and picks up this, powder and throws it. He's just like, well, that felt like such a collaborative effort between the creation of the song and the creation of the film and the filmmaker and the directing and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of balance with the choreography too. I know in What If I Loved You, there's those moments where they're hitting the beats, like you can tell the fluttering of the dresses and everything are meant to accent the beats in the song. I love those moments.
I love that you noticed that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And very intentional stuff.
It really kind of just like drives it all home when everything's kind of working in tandem. I think that, going back to I Should Write This Down, it's the fact that it's so different, or not so different, but like taps into that musical theater aspect and those hip hop aspects that you were talking about, instead of kind of following this is a standalone pop song thing. I think that's what makes you pay even more attention to the very important plot elements being introduced there. It draws you in a little bit more, because it's just a little bit of a...
Well, it was meant to be a musical punctuating turning point in the movie.
Totally.
Which is a plot turning point in the movie. So for us, it was like, okay, let's create this sore thumb. Yeah. That obviously works in context, but it was okay. This is a major moment that people are needing to pay attention to, because it's subtle, but it's a very crucial plot point in the film.
Yeah, and I love the back and forth between the characters. Like but no, like that was just like a really cheeky and clever way to kind of,
but like literally written that way. Like like the original demo was that.
I love that.
Was like, okay, the friar's going to interject here. Then he's going to shut him down. Like all of it was like, it was all crafted within the song. And to Justin's point, to see it all come to life the way we wrote it was insane.
I love that the actors also recorded the singing live on set. Were there any like surprises with how they sang them live, like chose to sing them live? Because I know actors always give a bunch of different takes.
No, I mean, I think that was kind of the whole thing, was like everybody lived with the demos. And then of course, as soon as we could get them to Italy, we put them in a lot of the core main, a lot of the kids were there prior to first day of shooting. Obviously, they had to do a lot of, everything from regular choreography to horse choreography, to sword fighting choreography to everything, right? So they had weeks and weeks of prep before we started shooting. And so we were able to grab them and throw them in the studio in Rome and record them before heading out into the Italian wilderness for our shooting. But then, certain actors didn't join us till 3 weeks into shooting or 2 months into shooting. And, it was a 3-month shoot, right? So we were in Italy for 3 months, and Justin and I were able to record them on set. We built studios in every location in trailers, which were oddly never on flat ground. So every time we sat in our chairs, we would roll to one side of the trailer. But the actors would show up, they do wardrobe, they do makeup, they do whatever, and then they'd be sent to us, for midnight recording sessions in a trailer, like in the middle of nowhere in Italy. And we would record them, which on this version of it. And then they'd have that version of it that they'd be able to live with themselves singing it. And then when it was time to shoot their scene, usually even a day or two later, they were able to have learned it, live with it with the demo, live with it with themselves singing it. And then we were like, great, now do it for real. And so we were able to them sing for real and then capture them singing it for real. And knowing full well that sometimes with swords clanging in the background or horses, people jumping around out of breath, there was going to be lots of bleed and takes that we couldn't use. But just on the off chance that we could grab something that was natural and organic in the moment, we wanted that. And more than anything, when someone shoots a music video, you always tell them sing it for real, because you can tell when someone's lip syncing it, right? So we made them sing it for real. They even made them, they wanted to, right? They embraced it, right? Like they wanted to perform these for real, so in some cases we then had the pre-records, we then had the live records, and then afterwards we were able to kind of assemble in post, what do we have, what do we still need, and then we would bring them back in to sing it again in cases that we needed it again. Some of these vocals on some of these songs are, were cut in 3 different cities, 2 different countries, and, put together in a way that really kind of like the best moments, the best takes, the best performances, as opposed to just having one take through, which, I feel fortunate that we had the ability to keep going back in to nail it, to really convey the best performance of it, And in some cases, it's like getting people to actually perform while they're doing things was the point of it. And another song we did, Don't Look Down, Jamie's climbing up this rope, not a rope, whatever you would call it. I don't know, what would you call it? A streamer or something, whatever. He's climbing up this thing it's the famous Juliet balcony scene. He's climbing up there, right? And so he had to sound like he's singing the song, still to be good, right? Mm-hmm. And it had to be good, but he also had to be climbing. So it couldn't be too good where you're like, no, there's no way you'd be singing that good but climbing. And then it also couldn't be like too out of breath, because then you wouldn't be a good take for the movie. So it's like you had to strike this balance of like how him performing it while climbing, and then touching and dropping in notes here and there, touching it up to make sure that it was like a good performance still.
Yeah, it's kind of, it gives a little bit of the Broadway effect too, when they're having to go around and run around the stage while also performing. Was reverb at all a problem with choosing certain locations? Like, were there certain locations where things were filmed and then you were like...
I mean, I could definitely answer that question. There's a great scene, if you remember. So there's a song that recurs in the film a lot. There's a song called Beat the Same, which if you remember, that's sort of the first kind of true duet that we really get with Juliet and Romeo. Mm-hmm. And then it happens again in the middle of the film, where they reuse the chorus of that song as their vows that they sing to each other. And there's this, it's in this beautiful 1,000-year-old church, and there's this incredible reverb that's happening inside of this church. And Tim's vision was he wanted it to be a very, very intimate scene between Juliet, Romeo, and the friar. And so we did have to capture that reverb. We did have to work sometimes with, okay, like, how do we maybe fix a vocal a little bit, but we still have to maintain this reverb in the church. So there was some technical trickery that went into making it all work, but I think it feels seamless. It feels like, hey, we're not taken out of the moment. But yeah, obviously recording inside of a church has challenges when it comes to reverb, especially these old stone churches. And outdoors is the opposite. It's totally dry. There is no reverb.
Yeah.
So I think the word's diegetically. So Tim really wanted to make sure that we never leave that moment. So, there's a song called Better Than This, where Veronica is singing outside, and he wanted to make it feel like, okay, we're outside, we're at a party. And so, that all felt true to that. Just like when we were inside of a church, we wanted it to feel true to the location that we were in. And we never wanted to be pulled out of it. So we couldn't fake those reverbs. They had to sort of always be there.
No, that makes sense. I'm sure that the tunnel was also pretty tricky, that anything that went on down there. But that's just something that was playing in the back of my mind because, like you said, it all just kind of ends up pretty seamless. So, but I know that that's not as effortless as it comes across.
Well, there was definitely a lot of communication between us, the playback crew, the crew that's recording live on set.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hard drives that were going back and forth, dozens of times a day. Here, take the session. Because again, Tim would want to make adjustments on the fly. So we would make those quick adjustments. We'd have to get that back to playback. They would have to get set up. They would have to then record and get their audio back to us for us to then go clean it up. I mean, it was a lot of not literal choreography, but technical choreography between all of the different crews on set to make sure that it was that we were able to stay cohesive in how it was all going to work together.
I like the way you put that. Technical choreography. I'm going to remember that. So now we are going to introduce a new game on this show designed just for this episode. It's called Stunt Casting. I've been very excited about this. And how you play is you're going to assign a pop star to each song in the movie, kind of like, Demi Lovato sang the pop version of Let It Go from Frozen, or they made that mixtape for Hamilton. So are you ready?
Oh, I love it. I love this.
All right. We're starting off with Stranger. What pop stars would sing the pop version of this song?
Well, first of all, it should be a duet. I think we should stay true to the nature of the where the duets are, right?
For sure.
So, yeah.
And there are a lot of duets.
There are.
My picks for this were Zayn and Halsey.
Oh, I like that.
I kind of felt like their voices would go together. It was giving like 2018, or not like the song was giving 2018, but having a Zayn and Halsey collab is something that would have totally happened in 2017, 2018. So I thought that's kind of fitting.
I feel like it could have been like relationshipy too, like people that were like maybe like Camila Cabello and Shawn Mendes back in the day. They were in a relationship.
Camila and Shawn. Yeah.
I like that one. I'll go with that one too. I like Camila and Shawn too. I also like Halsey and Zayn.
Yeah.
Halsey and Zayn. Okay. Next one is What If I Loved You? This one I actually did pick Shawn for. I said Dua Lipa and Shawn Mendes, kind of, which are a weird pair, but I could see it.
Well, does this have to be an ensemble or can this be one person?
This can be one person. This can be two people.
If you had to do a collab, I would be like, not a. I could say like a group collab. I would do like a Derulo featuring Justin Bieber and
you're going all the way male on that, huh? Interesting.
Yeah.
I felt kind of like maybe like Pink because it has this sort of like if God is a DJ kind of beat on it, So I was kind of thinking Pink on that one, but that's good.
Oh, that's interesting. You're wrong, but that's interesting.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
By the way, just so that you guys know, Evan likes to routinely send me the same meme over and over again that says friends that roast each other are 300% more likely. So he's really taken that like to be even more friendly and loyal. So he's gone like super hardcore. He's trying to get like 600-700%. So
I honestly feel like this could be. I feel like What If I Loved You could be a Derulo type record.
Yep, I could see that. I could for sure see that. The next one is Better Than This, which
that's a good one.
I was thinking has to be like a country lady. Like I was maybe thinking Carrie Underwood or something, but I think I landed on Shania Twain for this, especially because of the low kind of.
You're going classic.
Yeah,
I have an interesting one. I like Teddy Swims.
Oh, yes. I'm a huge
Teddy Swims during this solo.
Yes. I like Gracie Abrams.
Okay, Shania, Teddy, and Gracie are three completely different.
Let's put that into the universe and make it happen.
Yes, the Better Than This EP. Okay, next one. It's the big one. It's Beat the Same.
Easy. Justin, let me answer. I don't know who the guy is, but the girl is Julia Michaels.
Julia Michaels. Oh.
When we first started writing the music for this, and we started, our Juliet in the demos was Julia Michaels.
Oh, I love that.
All of our original demos to like, I would say like half of the songs have Julia singing them.
Wait, really? Oh, I love her.
I know. And so Beat the Same is Julia singing the Juliet parts.
I'm not going to be able to listen to this musical the same.
I was waiting for you to get to that one. I was like, Julia Michaels and Harry Styles. I don't know. I'm trying to think like who's a good guy to go with that.
I had the weirdest grouping for this, but I think it really, really works. Jordan Sparks and Benson Boone.
Benton's good.
I love that.
Because Benson could definitely like have the same sort of like growl and rasp in the higher parts of the song, but Jordan is like, she's a belter, and I felt like she has the clarity in her voice that the Juliet in this movie has in her voice too. So
I like all of those choices. I like Benson Boone a lot. First, for one, he's a phenomenal singer and excellent performer. I might have to come back to Benson and Gracie Abrams.
Benson and Gracie, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Benson and Julia, or
yeah. Well,
okay.
Julia is such a slam dunk, and I mean, a really funny story on the Julia thing too is like constantly. By the way, as we were recording, constantly referenced back, especially by Clara or Juliet, because she was so focused on not letting us down, because the Julia vocals were so good, so emotive, so just like wow. She was a big part of Clara's tone as we were recording these songs. Anyway, it's a little side story.
And I love that she had such a different voice than the Juliet in the movie, but it works so well.
Clara's a great singer.
We just wanted, when we did the demos, for each character's voice in the demos to be different as well. So like it would be easy for us to have just done like, oh, one person just sing all the demos, they're just demos. But in this case, we were trying to bring them to life. So different songwriters that we had involved were, would be, different characters. Chelsea Lena, who wrote a lot of the songs with us, she would be a lot of the different other women characters. Cameron Forbes would be our Romeo. He wrote a lot of the songs with us. So it's like different people who would sing different parts of the songs based on which character they were assigned. And in the case of Juliet, it was assigned to Julia Michaels before, when we started this, 10 years ago. We started writing the first songs. It's like, musicals take a minute to like develop and get off the ground. And so a lot of those early songs that, before Julia became Julia, was Julia singing as Juliet.
Wow. Juliet Michaels. So the next one is, I should write this down. This is probably the most tricky one.
I mean, to me, I was going to go Benson Boone on this one because of his theatrical nature.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Elton John.
Elton John.
Yeah, just kind of,
totally see Elton
just
John.
Fun, silly.
Is he a new artist, or?
Well, I mean,
is it weird, Justin, if I said Andy Grammer?
Andy Grammer? Oh, I could totally see Andy Grammer. Yeah. My first thought was Jack Black.
Oh my God, that would be so good.
He has a bunch of charting songs, but he's not really necessarily a pop star. So this is where I threw Jason Derulo in.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because he's funny. So I feel like he could keep like
that's kind of interesting. Like along the like dancing that song, like that dance song that he did or whatever. Like one of those kind of songs, right? Like I feel like I could see that. Jason does some quirky stuff.
Yeah, like he's got a little bit of a sense of humor, and he dabbles in a lot. He dabbles in a cappella. He dabbles in like, he has a lot of those like TikTok kind of songs, but then he also has his like ballads. And The Mask I Wear is the next song. And this one I had like 5 picks that I couldn't choose between.
This one's like Demi, right? I think from a thematic one. It could also have been Kelly Clarkson.
That's who belters. I had.
It's all belters.
Yeah. I think Katy Perry also could have.
This also could have been Jordan Sparks.
I was thinking Katy Perry. Maybe Sam Smith could have.
I love it. I love Katy Perry and Sam Smith on this. That's great.
Sia. This is definitely like
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Especially with the vowel sounds. She's like really good at those vowel sounds. And then this is kind of not a huge pop star, I think, outside of France, but someone that I'm really fond of, Marina Kaye.
Marina Kaye. Wow, that's free. I did a song on her last record. What a bizarre reference. Crazy.
I can totally hear her on a lot of these songs, actually, but especially this one.
Wow. Cool.
You got anything names to throw into the hat?
I mean, I just think it's all belters. I think it's like Celine plays, Celine takes Rebel's role as the sort of like the queen mother, and but I mean, all of those are great choices.
Next one is Don't Look Down. This one I was thinking, if we're trying to keep them era appropriate, I'm thinking Alicia Keys and Justin Timberlake. I mean, a lot of these ones I wanted to throw Benson Boone in or a Shawn Mendes or something, but I think this one would be a good one for Justin, and I feel like Alicia would be like a good duet partner for him. What were you guys thinking?
Ed Sheeran. I would do Ed Sheeran on this
Ed
one.
Sheeran. Yeah, I could totally
I would
see
do
that.
I would do Ed Sheeran solo dolo on this one.
Solo.
I like Ed Sheeran by himself on this, or maybe Ed Sheeran and Adele.
I mean, it's about time they did something together.
I like it. I like all of those choices. I have nothing to add.
Okay. What about Secrets?
I'm straight. I know exactly who the answer to this is.
You already know what I'm going to say, right?
Are we going to say the same thing?
1, 2, 3.
Ryan
Nelly Furtado.
Wait,
What?
hold on. Nelly and who?
Nelly and Ryan, for
Wait,
sure, man. What are you
okay,
talking about?
yeah.
Nelly and Ryan. Nelly Furtado and Ryan
Yes.
Tedder.
They have the Timbaland connection. What are you talking
Produced by-
about? It's
produced by
perfect.
That's
Timbaland.
perfect.
Yeah,
That
it's
actually
perfect.
is so perfect. My pick seems kind of random compared to that. I was thinking Ellie Goulding and Nick Jonas, maybe. They were both on the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack. I don't know. I was trying to make a connection
Oh, that's
there. But
interesting.
Again, little known fact: there is a beatbox credit on this song performed by Evan.
whoa.
Evan beatboxed.
Streets on Fire. And I have a good one for this, I think.
Okay, go first.
Tyson Ritter and Avril Lavigne. I could see like a kind of like pop rock kind of version of this song. I know it might be a little bit stretched, but I feel like I've always wanted them to collaborate. I feel like this would be a good one for it.
Make it happen. Maybe all of this talk. Maybe we should just do an. I think actually at one point we talked about doing that, didn't we? Having like making a record of all
Inspired by
yeah, and
the
having like
Hamilton record. Tyson Ritter, huh?
I
That's
love
interesting.
Tyson Ritter. Any other names we're
Yeah.
gonna throw in there?
how about Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson for Streets on Fire.
Mike Tyson Ritter.
Mike Tyson Ritter. I feel like it would fit the theme of the song.
Imagine Dragons.
Oh,
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that actually.
Feels like Imagine Dragons, kind of.
totally. Conversations. What were we thinking about for Conversations?
Me and
Again, also Evan sang the original demo.
still partial to my demo. No, I'm not partial to it. I just, when Justin and I wrote that, it was such a beautiful song. I must have listened to my version of it 1,000 times before anybody cut it. So it's like you kind of like just fall in love with that, you know?
Actually, again, little known fact about that song is that song was one of the songs that was used during as they were auditioning Juliet and Romeo. Like that was that song and Beat the Same were the two songs that were kind of used as the audition songs for everybody.
Oh, interesting.
Coldplay.
Coldplay? Oh, I could totally see Coldplay. I was thinking
Coldplay featuring Dua Lipa.
I would like that collab. Do they have a song together
Nope,
already?
that's it. This is their song. They
No,
should
they
cut this.
should.
I feel like we can try and recreate the magic of Christina Aguilera and Great Big World or whatever they were called. Remember that? Was that what they were called? Great Big World,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
I think this is definitely Chris Martin and Dua Lipa.
that'd be a sick collaboration.
I was thinking Ryan Tedder, and I was thinking Christina Aguilera maybe, but also Tate McRae. I feel like would be an interesting choice.
Perfectly
For this.
set up because of the new record. They're already working together. So
Yeah. Third to last, we have Someone to Love Again. I think a lot of the people I thought about for Someone to Love Again, I had already picked. So I went with Jessie J and John Legend.
Jessie J, yeah, that's cool. I mean, definitely, it's a belting kind of song.
Yeah.
that I think works well. Alicia Cara, I like that as a choice. Maybe
Love her.
she's got that kind of thing. But yeah, it's so funny because when you're talking about all of this, it's like I'm going back to when we're putting these songs together, and these are the kinds of conversations that we have as we're building out these records,
Yeah.
right? It's like you don't just sort of put your finger in the air and go, "Would it be cool if it was like no? What what if it was like?" How would Imagine Dragons sing this song? And so you kind of use that influence, as we're putting these tracks together. And so it's funny that we're kind of we're playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that it's kind of bringing me back.
Any other belters that we want to throw in before we move on to the next one?
James Hetfield from Metallica.
Yeah.
Justin
I mean-
kept saying, because he's Canadian, he kept saying every song he was like, what would it sound like if Celine Dion sang this?
No, I said, what would it sound like if Gino Vanelli sang it? Brian Adams.
Brian Adams.
And Corey Hart.
I was gonna say for This Time, which is the next song, that's the one I think could be a Celine Dion song.
Yeah, totally. I could see that for sure.
I would pick Celine Dion.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and we have to obviously pick at least one Canadian because Justin's on.
Yes.
Although we did,
Yeah,
I think we
Yeah,
picked Bieber. I
come on.
picked Bieber earlier. So
It's true. I think The Weeknd would be good on one of these songs. I just couldn't figure out which, so I didn't put him in for any of these.
Oh well. Next movie.
Last one is In the End.
Well, it's crazy actually. That song, I mean, the
Michaels.
Julia demo of that song. The Julia demo of that song is like,
it's incredible.
Wow.
Release the Julia
I know. We should have that.
It's not been discussed.
We should have that conversation with her though.
Yeah, we should.
It's not been discussed.
Yeah.
Just
It's
not
not with her.
Not with Julia.
I feel like Olivia could probably nail that.
Yes. Olivia.
I feel like Olivia
Rodrigo.
could nail that one.
I love that. Unless you meant Olivia Newton-John, but I don't think so.
Oh yeah, that's even better.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Evan and Justin, for joining me. This was awesome.
Thank you.
This is fun, man.
Thank you so much, Evan and Justin, for joining me. Thank you to Noah for the theme music, and thank you to Chris for editing this episode. Make sure to rate and review us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on right now. Bye.